or other non-EX attacker type decks. And Andre's version, which has the Lycanroc, like you said, just seems so much more powerful. Just seems to throw another wrench into that already bad matchup.
All right, so we see a Psychic Energy come down from Frank and an N. And one thing we kind of see of note is we saw the 2 Trubbish prize. He started with 2 Trubbish. So all 4 were in the top, like, 13 cards of his deck.
An interesting thing about Frank having those Floatstone prizes is that the Floatstones provide utility for being able to retreat, obviously, but they also provide a lot of utility to turn on that Garbotoxin on that Garbodor. So with just 2 fewer tools around, it's going to be a lot harder for him to set that up. And Andre's deck does have a non-zero amount of relevant abilities. It doesn't have as many as some decks, but it is going to be, he's something he's going to want to do. So we see Frank actually just end and pass the turn.
Yeah, and we do see Unknown coming down from Andre. Does not look like he got much of anything. The N really kind of hurt him. This hand doesn't look that good.
I can't quite see what's in his hand, but so this is the thing that can happen with this Vespiquen deck. So the advantage that you get is that your attackers are non-EXs. So whenever your opponent takes a knockout, they're only taking a knockout. They're only getting 1 prize, and whenever you take a knockout, you're taking 2. However, you do need to evolve. You do need to constantly set up, and if Andre can't do that here, he's going to be in a rough position.
Yeah, so his hand is really just Versa Seekers, some energy, and the Lycanroc. He will Intelligence Gathering with Vespiquen, though, thanks to the Force of Giant Plants and the Double Colorless. So maybe with that 1 or 2 cards he drew, he could try to find something. There is a Sycamore, so...
Yeah, he did manage to, he's playing well. He said, I don't have a great hand, but luckily one of the powers of Vespiquen is doing this rarely used Intelligence Gathering attack, just doing a little bit of damage and drawing some cards, and he drew a Sycamore there. The question will be if Frank is able to respond in any way and kind of punish Andre for just leaving that double colorless up without taking a knockout. A lot of the tension of the Vespiquen decks is that they need to constantly be finding their energy again and their evolutions again.
Yeah, so we do see another N come down from Frank, and that's kind of what Andre wants to see. His hand wasn't that very good, and of course he had that Sycamore, but he also had a few stuff that he doesn't really want to show Frank early on, like that Lycanroc GX and the Strong Energy.
Yeah, and obviously Frank had no way of knowing that. If he had another supporter, I'm willing to bet he would have just played it there. But it's always interesting when your opponent, your opponent doesn't have anything, but you assume that they might have like a Sycamore, let's say, because you're saying, oh man, I don't want to give them 6 new cards because they're going to discard their hand, but they're also going to discard their hand and draw 7. It's sometimes can be an interesting tension.
Yeah, he actually had the Tapu Lele in his hand, but his own option of a Sycamore would have been bad for him too, because he had both of his Field Blowers in his hand. He used the one to get the Force of Giant Plants off the field, but you kind of want to save the other one because Choice Band's a big card in this matchup for Vespiquen.
And that's what we were just talking about, is that Sycamore can be punishing. It's not completely free.
As I said that, he Ultra Balls away another Field Blower.
He just plays the 2. Yeah, he does.
So both of those are gone now. So
any Choice Bands are going to be live on the board for as long as the Pokemon they're attached to is on.
And one thing Andre also plays is 1 Parallel City, too, which we don't really see much of from Vespiquen players. And with Frank not really knowing that, and both Field Blowers being gone, and him not playing any stadiums at all, that means this Parallel City might surprise Frank out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, Parallel City kind of playing double duty there. So
yeah.
Boosting the Vespiquen, limiting Frank's bench. And the Drampa deck is a deck where you want things on your bench. You want hopefully a Garbotoxin Garbodor, a Trash Avalanche Garbodor, a Drampa, and then maybe another Drampa, or you've played a Shaman or something. Your bench can easily get full. So if Andre can find that Parallel City, it's going to be hard for Frank.
It's also a way for Andre to limit his bench too, and get some more Pokemon in the discard.
Yeah, if he needs to, that's absolutely an option.
So here's one thing we see from Frank. He plays a Shaman and sets up for 6. It's not really something we've seen in these Drampa Garbodor decks anymore. It's kind of phased out in favor of just Tapu Lele. Why do you think he plays the 1 Shaman?
He might just be valuing being aggressive and drawing cards. Like we said earlier with the Tapu Lele, that Tapu Lele only does so much for you. It sounds funny to say, but there are times where you don't have any Sycamores left in your deck. Let's say you can only end, and you don't want to. You need just raw cards, or maybe you do have Sycamores, but you don't want to discard what you have. You just need a certain amount of cards. So I actually like Shaman. I think it makes sense to cut cut it down to, I know a lot of people are only playing 1 in basically every deck, sometimes 2, where Shaman used to be, a guaranteed 2 or 3 of. So it makes sense to cut it down. There are liabilities there. But I do still like having a Shaman just when you need to draw some extra cards and find some things.
And if anything, he is playing double colorless. That means he's able to sky return it back to his hand and keep it from being a liability too much on the bench.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the huge powers of Shaman is just, I'm going to come down, draw cards, and I am a liability, but if you have a free turn, I can go ahead and sky return back to your hand and reset for later.
So we were saying that Frank only played the 2 rainbows, but with that Intelligence Gathering dealing 10 damage, now these Drampa GXs are essentially online with their Berserk attack.
Yeah, the Berserk is up, and so is that Garbotoxin.
With the Choice Band on it instead of the Float Stone, because after Frank searching through his deck, he realized, like, oh, I only have 1 Float Stone in my deck. I kind of need to do this now.
And big move here by Frank. Acid Spray knocks off the double colorless. Like we were talking about, the Vesperquin decks constantly kind of have to rebuild and find their energy. They only play 4 double colorless. They do play some amount of special charge too. I think Andre has 2.
Yeah.
But that can be a real thing is when you're saying, okay, I have a double colorless and it's used to not draw a prize.
And speaking of Acrobike, finding a double colorless and an Ultra Ball, kind of 2 cards you really want to, both of them in your hand. Along with that, he already has an Ultra Ball and a double colorless in his hand too. So it's kind of this redundancy that you see. And he ends up discarding the double colorless, valuing the second Ultra Ball more, especially with that Garbotoxin active.
Yeah, interesting. He does have 1 double colorless in his hand already, just choosing to say, I need this Ultra Ball. I need to find more Pokemon. And I do see a Rockruff hits the discard pile for Andre, so that's kind of the cat's out of the bag now, so to speak. The dog's out of the bag. Frank knows what's going on now. He knows that he can get Bloodthirsty Eyes at any moment.
Yeah, Frank kind of seemed unfazed by the Rockruff. He's like, yeah, I've seen it.
You got to expect that your opponents are going to have effects like that either way. He also doesn't know he has a strong energy, which not everyone plays. Like, not every Lycanroc deck is going to be able to attack with it. So Frank is someone who's going to stay calm and collected either way. But he's definitely taking note of it mentally. He's definitely saying, okay, how does this change the game?
Yeah, the thing with these Vesperquin decks is they need to play so many Pokemon to actually deal the number of damage they need to get to with Be Revenge that they end up playing these random tech cards. Usually it's Zoroark, and we actually see Zoroark in his deck too. He's just filled up everything he can. Yeah,
Andre's playing kind of the full suite. We have Zoroark, which is pretty common. Tapu Koko, which again doesn't really cost anything, just a double colorless, so that makes sense too. The Lycanroc is not completely unheard of, but it's not always there. But when you combine all of these things, you definitely have a lot of Pokemon that are just kind of interesting techs for specific matchups. And the good thing, as you can see kind of Andre doing now, rather, is he's wanting to get those Pokemon in the discard pile. So he's saying, okay, these unknowns don't really matter to me anymore. I have to discard this Lycanroc. Oh, not a huge deal. It's not ideal, but it's powering my Be Revenge attack. So it's not like it's the end of the world. If these Pokemon aren't suitable for this matchup, I'm just going to put them in my discard pile.
Yeah, and he actually discarded that 1 strong energy too. So now nothing's really a secret. And he also has those 2 double colorless in his discard, so he will need to find a special charge soon if he wants to keep these attackers going. Yeah,
he only has 1 double colorless left in his deck besides the 1 that's in play. The strong energy does become sort of less important, I think, at this point in the game. The Lycanroc does take 2 energy to attack, so it's kind of an awkward attachment you have there. And hopefully, if you're being able to Lycanroc things around, you can take some knockouts, but he's definitely going to want to find special charges. This is kind of going to be the whole tension, I think, if Frank is able to keep getting set up, is can Andre rebuild every turn as he gets the first knockout.
Yeah, and thanks to that Acid Spray from that Trubbish earlier on, Drampa will be able to knock out the Vesperquin active with just a regular Berserk, not one with a damaged Pokemon on the bench.
Yeah, very heads-up play by Frank there, just realizing that he could have retreated and just Righteous Edge and got the guaranteed removal of the energy, but he's decided to say, you know what, it's unimportant. I don't want to damage my Drampa. I'll just take this on a flip, and if I get heads, hey. If not, I'm in a much safer position.
It would also waste his 1 float stone or another energy kind of thing. Yeah. So here we see Frank. He did suffer a knockout on the Trubbish, but he still has that Garbotoxin active and a fully powered up Drampa GX in his active spot.
We see a Sycamore. Not really much Frank can do this to, just a bunch of energy and supporters. I hear he has a Garbotoxin Garboter on the line, and he's already played his energy and supporter for the turn. So a hand that is good, but is not really doing anything for him this turn. And we're just going to see a Berserk knockout.
Yeah, and one thing of note, too, he does play 2 Garbotoxin Garboter, really honing in, like, yeah, this ability is still really good.
Yeah, I think we've seen it kind of float between a 3-1 and a 2-2 split, usually 3-1. Looks like Frank took a Trubbish off those prizes, so we will be able to play a Trubbish down and start the, maybe get a Trash Lance going soon. But Frank is definitely valuing the Garbotoxin, shutting off abilities. Relevant in the format right now that I can think of is Volcanion, Gardevoir, GX. A lot of Pokemon, a lot of very popular Pokemon going into this tournament, Decidueye, that have very powerful abilities. So I think that was a good call by Frank, just kind of valuing the less aggressive, more controlling Garboter a little higher.
And if we look at Andre's hand, it's really not much of anything. He has the Revitalizer to get back some pieces of the Vespiquen line, but he has a Tapu Lele that is not active right now, and only a Guzma as his supporter in hand.
We'll see the Vespiquen does hit the board, but yeah, not a whole lot going on otherwise.
I think we might see a Guzma on the Garboter to try and stall for a few turns, and we'll now need to see if Frank gets one of his 3 Guzmas himself.
I do think he had one in his hand, actually. Guzma I'm not 100% sure about that, but Guzma is a good way to play around that. Like we said earlier, the float stones are so important for those Garboters because many games have been lost in this exact spot, saying, all right, you have a Garboter with a tool attached, I'm going to Lysander or whatever it up, and hopefully you can't do anything about it. And then it's, I couldn't retreat for 4 turns. I just gave my opponent all this time to set up.
And he does have the Guzma in hand, and I think that's also another reason why he's playing the full 3 Guzma, not like a split of Lysander or anything like that. It's like, well, there will be times I'll need to attach a tool to one of my 2 Garbotoxin Garboters, so these Guzmas will be coming in clutch.
Yeah, adding a lot of utility for Frank. We do see that Trubbish hit the bench, so now he can start building up a Trashalanche Garboter for the future. Looks like Frank just kind of considering his options here. The interesting thing about this Guzma is that he is going to... It's not as bad for Andre as it could be because Frank is going to have to take out something that's kind of not the main attacker. He is going to take down the Zoroark, which I think is a good idea. Andre already has a Vespiquen up. You might as well take out the attacker that is kind of more unique here. And Tapu Koko is not all that relevant in this spot.
Yeah, and to be fair, he wouldn't even be able to take out the Tapu Koko because there's no damage on his bench.
Oh, yeah, he wouldn't actually be able to.
And yeah, it looks like we do see a Berserk coming from Frank, taking another prize.
He was a float stone there.
And okay, Andre drew a Professor Sycamore. He actually can do something this turn.
All right, so let's see if he can sort of rebuild here. Again, he is not too far behind. He is behind 1 prize, but he will be taking prizes quicker than Frank, hopefully. And yeah, he just decides to go ahead and discard the whole hand. I didn't quite see what all was in it. I saw an Oranguru.
There's a lot of Pokemon.
None of the important cards that he needs, which is, namely energy.
But no, he did not hit the 1 double colorless left in his deck. He's going to have to rely on this Acrobike to see if he can hit it.
Yeah, he has a Shaman EX, but the Garbotoxin is active, so he can't do that. Looks like Frank just taking looking through his discard pile. I can't count how many Pokemon in there. Maybe 10, somewhere around there. Acrobike.
Oh, okay, another Acrobike. Let's spin the wheel again.
Yeah, so Acrobike looks like he's going to find... No, he just discards the Acrobike.
Okay.
He has Rescue Stretcher in hand as well. Couldn't quite make out the rest of it. Just going to go ahead and count through his resources here. So he really wants to find a way to attack this turn. He wants to find a way to sort of rebuild. He does have 2 Vespiquens, but no, he just has to pass the turn back. He just doesn't have anything set up here. And this is just going to give Frank another turn to set up.
Frank drew the Rainbow Energy. That means he will be able to turn on Berserk for the full 150 damage. And that will make sure he's going to be able to take a knockout every turn, basically, from now on.
Yeah, that's incredibly powerful. We see the Rainbow Energy coming down onto the Trubbish. Some consideration to attach to the Drampa there, but he's just saying, I want to get this Trash Lance online, and this damage here doesn't really hurt me.
Yeah, well, so there's a ton of items in Andre's discard anyway.
Oh, yeah, I have to imagine. This Vespiquen deck is definitely very, very item heavy.
It's not shy about its items.
No, it is. It's interesting. We've seen, when I think Drampa Garboter kind of came out and was a huge force at Seattle Regionals, was a huge force in those events. And then kind of later it, it kind of slowed down a little. People said, oh, maybe Garbodor is not as good. Maybe it is better. Maybe, people decided between I need to play fewer items or I'm just going to ignore it, and Andre is definitely on the plan of ignoring it. He's definitely saying, I'm just going to beat it straight up. The Trash Lances are going to do, 150, 200 regularly, but that's fine.
Like, you'll knock out my Pokemon, but I'll knock out your Pokemon. Let's see who's faster.
Right.
And here we see a Versus Seeker from Frank.
Card should be on the bottom. Yeah. So this Versus Seeker is really big for Frank too here. It's going to let him Guzma, kind of the opposite situation of last turn, where now he is just getting the full advantage from it, just saying, all right, well, I'm going to, you put your Vespin on the bench, I'm going to go ahead and just be able to hit it here. I mean, so that floats when you drew off the prizes, retreating right back into that Drampa and taking a knockout.
All right.
And he even has another Versus Seeker in hand too, so if he has so many options for next turn. And, but despite the fact that I did think this was a bad matchup, it looks like Frank's going to draw a double colorless off his prizes too, which will help him. I do think that Frank has been in control of this game so far. Andre has stumbled a bit, but Frank is, really setting up his board. He has that early Garbotoxin. He's doing everything right.
Yeah, the early Garbotoxin definitely swung the matchup for him, from what I believe, because Andre's hand was really just like Tapu Lele or Shaman, and he really relies on those cards to get him going and to get his engine of just discarding Pokemon after Pokemon.
So we do see a Rescue Stretcher from Andre. Kind of an interesting card. Might seem a little
counterintuitive.
Yeah, counterintuitive with the Vespiquen B Revenge attack, but he's just saying, I'm going to use the first ability, get one Pokemon back, just get that Combi. I know that I'm going to need to be setting up these Vespiquens as time goes on, so he'll take the kind of 10 damage lost from the B Revenge in order to just kind of be more consistent.
All right, here's the Sycamore. He needs that one double colorless.
Does he find it?
Yes, he does. And he has a special charge in his hand too. I think 2 of them.
All right, so he will be able to reset pretty well. I just wish we had a Pokemon count in the discard pile. I didn't actually quite see that. But the special charge is going to go ahead. And now Andre is totally back to exactly where he wants. Not quite exactly where he wants to be, but his deck is set up in a way. He doesn't have that many cards left. There are 2 double colorless in there now. There's 1 in his hand. He even has a second special charge.
And there we see there's exactly enough Pokemon with the Choice Band to knock out a Drampa GX.
It's like 13?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's actually perfect. Now he's just totally back in the driver's seat. And again, we've seen Frank. We just said Frank was ahead. Frank's in control. And now Andre is going to take a knockout and be tied in prizes because, again, these Drampas are giving up 2 prizes each.
All right, and it was really important for him to hit the double colorless, but not only that, to get the special charge too, so he can do it again next turn.
Yeah, exactly. Now he has 2 double colorless in the deck. If this Vespiquen gets knocked out, he can shuffle the other 2 back in and have as many as he needs. And here is the 2 prizes. 2 prizes were Tapu Lele and
the
Sycamore.
All right, so he's going to spin the wheel again next turn, and we have a game here now.
Yeah, I wouldn't quite say Frank is on the back foot, but we definitely have a game here. That last turn for Andre was huge and put him right back into this. So it's really anyone's game at this point. Let's see what Frank can put together on this turn. He does have energy to attack. He does have Versus Seeker for any supporter he wants. I didn't quite get a item count in Andre's discard pile, but I got to imagine it's enough to knock
all you
out
need is
anything.
5.
Yeah,
and he's probably played that in like acrobatics
in a turn. Yeah.
All right, he does attach a Psychic Energy to the Drampa GX that is now fully charged up, and he's just kind of playing his hand out. I might see an end here from Frank.
Yeah, we do see the Versus Seeker. I think he's just choosing to play the end. He's just saying, you know what, we're getting low on prizes here, and again, Andre needs more cards than Frank. Frank has more stuff on the board, but even if he really didn't, Frank can attack with any of his 7 Psychic or 2 Rainbow on a Garbodor, for instance, whereas Andre needs to constantly be re-buying those double colorless energies. So N definitely hurts Andre now here more than anything, and this is kind of the narrative of a lot of these Vespiquen decks is, can they rebuild? All right, it's going to their turn. What do they have? Can they find it?
And that's where we see the high counts of Tapu Lele, Shaman EX, Oranguru. It's to help them after these low late game ends. And with that Garbotoxin being active and Andre not playing any Field Blower at all, means it's going to be the whole game is Garbotoxin.
Yeah. Once the Garbotoxin is online, unless Andre dedicates a turn to knocking it out, it will stay on the board. Or I guess Tapu Koko can do infinite amount of damage, but it's definitely harder for Andre to deal with a Garbotoxin than most other
And so
players.
the one thing I was worried about with Frank after this end was, well, what if Andre draws like a Guzma and brings up the Garbotoxin Garbodor? But Frank actually got his a Guzma of his own. So now he has that basis covered. So now we're seeing like, okay, there's one Combi in play, looking pretty good, but we do see Andre's hand kind of got the nuts, like Vespiquen, Sycamore. That's all you really need. Now
so
just get a double colorless, you're fine.
Yeah, Frank's down to 2. He takes a prize there, but I don't even know. He can't have that many cards left in his deck. Yeah, Andre only has a couple cards left. You got to believe there's a double colorless there. There is more than enough Pokemon to take a knockout on that Drampa.
And he gets the Zoroark too, which might be big. Granted, it doesn't do enough damage right now to a Garbodor, but it's another attacker.
Sure, and that's something that Frank is going to stay very aware of. Like we said earlier, Frank is one of the best players in the world, and everyone competing at the World Championship is going to make, stay ahead of the board state, make heads-up plays. But Frank has definitely been thinking this entire time, okay, I only want to bench X amount of Pokemon, and he can be doing these exact things. Like, there's a lot of small technical play like that that may not even come up, you may not notice it, but is very important.
And we see here, there is no more Combi or Vespiquen left in the deck. So he's going to probably Ultra Ball for Tapu Lele just because it seems like a better attacker than Zoroark right now.
And he has used his Rescue Stretcher. He only runs one copy of that. So he will have no way to get back those Combis and Vespiquen. This is another thing that Frank is going to be thinking. He knows, he's out of attackers now. I know this, so I've done the counts. He does have that Zoroark, like we said, so that can act as a backup attacker. Looks like he's considering whether or not to evolve.
Yeah, that's unfortunate because he had the Vespiquen in hand, actually. So Combi, next turn, he had a Verse Seeker and a Vespiquen again. Would have been able to, like, just roll it on in, but now it's going to be a little tough. This Trash Launch is going to do a lot of damage.
Yeah, now we're seeing Frank does get to now attack with a non-EX Pokemon in Garbodor. However, Andre only has one prize left, so any knockout is all the same. Frank is going to take some time to look through the resources of Andre, mostly looking for double colorless, I would expect. Probably some item cards too, just seeing what exactly he's used.
Double colorless, Combi, like, all right, I'm not going to really see that.
Yeah, he knows that he's not going to get Vespiquen anymore in this game. He just has to decide, what can I do outside of that? What else is coming for me, maybe? Are there double colorless left for this Zoroark?
And honestly, with that Guzma in hand, too, he is kind of safe. He's like, all right, I'm going to take the knockout on the Vespiquen. If you try to charge up another attacker, I'm just going to choose that one instead. Like,
yeah, with Mind Jack from Zoroark not really being turned on here, as Frank has been very disciplined about his bench space. He's not going to be able to do a whole lot. He just attaches to the Garbotoxin.
I want to see an offensive bomb sometime this weekend.
And there's the Trash Launch, the huge attack.
A lot of damage coming in.
A lot of damage coming in. Tapu Koko gets promoted. The draw.
We need to see the double colorless. No. Because if he got a double colorless, maybe he could, like, end. Or, no, you can't really even end. You need, like, Guzma. I don't really think there's much of anything Andre can do right now.
He does have a lot of options here, but none of them are very good, with both players being at one prize left and Frank's board just kind of being set up as it is.
I think if he does Guzma here, Frank's just like, yeah, I got a Guzma in hand this game, right?
Yeah, I mean, I assume he's going to try to buy time with the Guzma, get that Garbodor into the active position, but that's not really going to do a whole lot. I mean, Andre has to play it like this, right? Like, he has to try. He doesn't know Frank has the Guzma. He has to try to, even if it's a 0.001% chance of winning, you'll see these players at the World Championship at the highest stage do whatever they can to try to win the match.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes in, like, any card game is, you got to play to your outs.
Yes.
If your outs is your opponent drawing energy for 10 turns in a row, you got to play to that.
Right.
Because this is the World Championships, and you want to make it to day 2.
Right. Even if you have to have something very specific has to go right, then pretend it's going to go right and do everything you can. You can't just give up.
All right, and here we see the Guzma.
Yeah, Frank just showing him the Guzma. Frank Diaz takes game 1.
The Combi was the last prize. That's right.
Oh, yeah. That game went much differently than we expected. I have traditionally seen the Drampa decks kind of struggle against the Vespiquen deck sometimes, but we saw kind of exactly what Frank needed to happen. We have the early Garbotoxin. We saw some, even outside of the Garbotoxin, we saw some kind of missteps and turns from Andre. Just no mistakes, but just like a couple of dead hands and things like that.
Yeah, there was a few times where it's like, oh, if I had my abilities, this hand's amazing.
Right. If I can shame it, if I can tap Lele, I can't. But we saw that happen 2 or 3 times, which is enough. When you're taking knockouts, when you're trading knockouts every turn, if you miss it 2 times, that's pretty bad for you.
Yeah, and we do see over half of our time has gone dedicated to that game 1. And these are 2 decks where they seem kind of fast because they don't take many turns to finish. Like, you kind of take a prize every turn in this matchup, but you do so much in your turns that it takes a long time.
Yeah, the amount of actions you take, especially in the Vespiquen deck, is pretty high.
A lot.
Not
Ultra
as
Ball,
high,
Acrobike, all that stuff.
Not as high as in the expanded versions where you have Battle Compressor and things like that, but still, it's not uncommon for, Ultra Ball, Acrobike, Shaman, Tapu Lele, like so many deck searches, so many shuffles that can really eat up the clock. We do have 23 minutes left, so hopefully it will be enough. Looks like players are pretty quickly getting into game 2 here.
Yeah, I definitely don't miss commentating Battle Compressor matches. Just sitting there wonder what they're going to take.
They certainly take a long time off the clock. And it looks like both players have set up their actives. We're going to go ahead and look at some prize cards now.
Yeah, and we kind of saw that. We were talking about how Lycanroc might make this matchup a little differently, but it was a non-factor. Kind of just chose to discard him in favor of well, my hand's not really that good anyway to try to get up this tech attacker. And there's the 1 strong energy, so we still might not see it here.
Strong energy prize, nothing else huge prized there. 2
Tapu Leles. So he has 1.
Yeah, Frank only has 1 left, so not great prizes from Frank as we kick off game 2.
He's had not great prizes 2 games in a row.
Yeah, it didn't actually come into play too much last game. He was able to kind of have start with 2 Trubbish anyway, and he had the Guzma when he got punished for not having the float stone, and then he found the float stone, so didn't come into play too much. Not terrible prizes for either player. Hopefully Frank has the consistency to find that 1 Tapu Lele, and hopefully that can kind of get him rolling.
And wow, it's unfortunate the hand that Andre has. It's a lot of item cards and a Sycamore, and he can't really play the item cards that he has.
Yeah, kind of awkward interaction here. So he attaches to the DCE to retreat to the Shaman, and then special charges 1 double colorless back, just saying, all right, well, I kind of had to do this because I'm going to Sycamore this turn, but there's another one in his hand.
Yeah, that's a little interesting because now he's going to need to get the 1 float stone in his deck to retreat the Shaman, or just waste another double colorless.
Yeah, so now in doing that, Andre has gotten rid of a double colorless and a special charge.
And his attachment for the turn.
And his attachment for the turn. So he's going to have to try to base all of his attacking on attaching next turn.
And which is kind of weird because you would think Zoroark is pretty good in this matchup. Although you do expect Frank to play around it.
Well, yeah, he's also probably afraid of getting Acid Sprayed or Righteous Edge and just losing that energy anyway. But it is awkward to have the Shaman in the active position, like a non-attacker that you still want to move and is still a liability.
I guess he was worried about the Acid Spray too, maybe. Well, he hit heads last game. It's going to probably happen this game again too.
And there's the Rockruff, the first we've seen of that actually on the board so far.
I like it. I like it. All right, and I think there is 4 items in Andre's discard already, meaning this Trash Lanch Garbodor will do a lot of damage if it comes down.
Basically, the Vespiquen decks, as they're built currently, don't really have a way to play around it. It's not like it's not like your opponent needs 11 items or something. They need 5 to knock out anything, 6 to knock out the Shaman. You just have to accept. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to be playing these cards. And wow, we don't see anything from Frank here besides an attachment and Acid Spray.
Whoa, yeah. There's a little something. It does 40 damage because of Choice Fan, but
we do see a 40 damage.
Not much else.
No supporters, no other Pokemon on the board. we did see the 2 Tapu Lele prize, so that's just kind of 2 fewer outs that Frank has to any supporters, anything that can draw him cards.
Hey, it's a good way to play around Zoroark's Mind Jack, all right?
Yeah, he is completely
the ultimate master.
It.
Yeah. He's like, all right, you're only going to do 10 damage to me.
Yeah, talk about heads up plays. Frank just has the read on that Zoroark.
Which, funny enough, Andre did draw.
And then immediately discard.
So now there's 3 Pokemon in the discard. So Vespiquen's doing 50 damage. 2 more Pokemon in the discard means it's a very quick game, too.
Yeah, I don't know what is in Andre's hand if he can get it together, but there's a unknown. So Frank, just go ahead. Frank might be thinking, okay, this game's probably over. Just let me make sure I know what all these cards, what's going on here.
Yeah. Like anything I missed game 1? Yeah? Okay. So here we see a Wonder Tag from Tapu Lele getting the Professor Sycamore. So he's really needing that 1 Floatstone and a double colorless, and he'll be able to seal this game up. Maybe he's 1 Pokemon short after the unknown.
So Vespiquen is going to hit the... Oh, so this... Okay, I see what happened. Yeah. He was Wonder Tagging and didn't put it back into his hand yet. Looked like he was just playing it, which would have been a huge mistake. We see the Choice Band get attached to the Vespiquen.
All right, there's the Sycamore. 7 fresh cards. Let's see. The Floatstone and the double colorless.
Does he find it? I see double colorless. I don't see a Floatstone, though. He does have the 1 more draw, which frees up a bench space as well. Ooh, he's slow rolling. He's slow rolling himself, too. No, it's a Zoroark.
All right, so he can Ultra Ball, maybe get another Shaman, try to draw some more cards.
I do think you just go for it here.
You have to do it anyway.
Like, your opponent isn't doing anything, so it's not as if you hope, unless they draw literally Sycamore or something next turn, they're not going to be really able to punish you for this. You just have to hope that the game does not go long and that they cannot recover. Because again,
it is in there.
It's not as if Andre misses here. Frank still needs things. He needs to draw a supporter. He could easily just pass again, in which case Andre has another turn to redo this. So I think you want to be as aggressive as possible here if you're Andre.
The only thing that's kind of awkward is you want to attach the double colorless to the Vespiquen to give yourself more of a chance to draw the Floatstone, because really right now you're only drawing 1 or 2 cards. But if you miss it, you'd rather attach it to the active Shaman,
right,
to kind of save it from getting knocked out if Frank actually has something next turn.
You can also special charge 1 back in to draw quite a few cards. And again, this is now costing him in the long game. He does have all of his special charges gone. He is, putting 2 Shaman onto the board that can be easily targeted down by Frank, but he just has to hope that there isn't a long game. And it does take multiple things to go wrong for there to be a long game. So
all right,
let's see what here.
Set up 4 cards. Forest, Unknown, and an Acrobat.
Okay. Acrobat. It's the slow rolls.
Still
keep
going. No.
It's a miss. Looks like was he looking at actual just Combi Vespiquen there in the Acrobike?
Yeah.
All right, so it looks like Frank Diaz will have at least 1 more turn to play this game.
Breathing a sigh of relief. He's like,
yeah, I mean, he
pass.
has to believe, if Andre had it here. Yeah, he says pass. And the draw for the turn.
And this is where
it was an end.
Like, oh, wow.
All right, so Frank can actually start putting this together now. He's going to look at his hand, say, yeah, I still have nothing else to play, and slam down the end.
And this is where that kind of play in the beginning comes in, where he retreated that Zora with a double colorless to the Shaman. And it would have relied on Frank flipping tails, but still like a way to retreat.
Yeah, it does. It has put him in a much worse position here.
To be fair, though, he still is set up.
Yeah, and
Frank still only has a Trubbish in play.
Yeah, he still has a Vespiquen. Frank still has to rebuild a lot from this.
Oh, no.
Ultra Ball.
Okay.
Yeah, we saw the first 5 cards from Frank was not anything he could play this turn. He does find the Ultra Ball to find a Pokemon. You can find a Shaman. You can find a Tapu Lele. You can start getting. I would imagine he's going to find a Shaman here. To start setting his board up a little bit more.
Maybe a Drampa?
Yeah, so there's 2 options. You can find a Shaman if you want to draw more cards and just kind of hope that you can get more going on this turn. Or you can find a Drampa or even a Trubbish and just say, whatever, I have a Versus Seeker for next turn. I'm going to be able to draw more cards next turn. I'm going to take a less risky line here and just kind of Drampa or Trubbish or whatever attacker attach to it and just pass the turn. And you still have to find a way to retreat if you're Andre, and that's exactly what Frank chooses to do, kind of taking the more conservative line here, which I think is fine. He does have a Sycamore in his discard pile that he can get back with. I believe he has a Versus Seeker in his hand, so he's just saying, I don't really need to set up a whole lot this turn. I'm going to focus on the next turn.
Yeah, and to be fair, with all this cycling through his deck that Andre did, he already used both special charges.
Yes.
He has discarded a few Pokemon that maybe he didn't want to discard, and his bench is full, so he really doesn't have much options if the game does go late. So Frank, all he needs to do is survive.
Yeah, this is exactly what we were talking about, is that, the situation in which Andre gets punished for his line of play last turn was this exact situation if Frank top decks a supporter, which is what happened. So he is on the back foot here. He has gone through resources, like you said, but he's still set up. It's not like he's in a terrible position, and Frank still has a lot to build on his board.
So this Guzma's pretty good right now because it allows him to save this double colorless, which he's attaching to the Rockruff. And now he can Guzma away the Shaman from the active, bring up that Trubbish with the rainbow on it and the float, because that's kind of a scary thought with Garbotoxin. Retreat it, maybe charge up a Drampa and get Berserk going.
Yeah, Guzma, a great way for this deck not to have to rely on the Float Stone or the double colors energy as much. And after that Guzma, we are going to see a knockout. And he's saying, all right, well, Frank...
Oh, yes, he gets the strong energy from
too.
the prizes.
He has committed the energy to the Rockruff, getting ready for that Lycanroc.
Frank drew the Trashlanch Garbodor.
Yeah, pretty good draw, all things considered. Just going to evolve the Garbodor and then Versus Seeker. Going to go ahead and take Sycamore. Drawing 7 new cards. Just needs as many things to go right for him as possible. Needs as many opportunities to see cards as possible. Not really a whole lot he can do this turn, but he does have that Ultra Ball, as well as the Field Blower, so we can move the Choice Band on the Zoroark, I guess. How many Forest of Giant Plants?
He plays 1.
Okay, yeah. I was going to say, I haven't really seen it be a huge factor in this game. Can be punishing for him if he does not find it next turn, because he doesn't have a Combi on the board yet.
But he does have that Rockruff.
Yeah, he does have other things going on, which is part of the reason why he can rely less on that Force of Giant Plants interaction.
And so it'll be interesting if he might be too scared to go for the Drampa GX with this Ultra Ball. So we might see another Trubbish or Tapu Lele come out, because if he does have the strong energy, which we know he does, but Frank doesn't know, and with the Lycanroc, it's able to just take knockouts out of nowhere. The strong energy allows you to Claw Slash for 130, which knocks out a Garbodor, and really knocks out almost anything except for the Tapu Lele in Frank's deck.
Yeah, definitely. And that's something that's interesting here, too, is that Frank doesn't know that Andre has the 1 strong energy, but he probably knows that he plays just a single copy because he saw most of his deck last game. Andre had very few cards left in his deck, and you definitely know that Frank, an intelligent player as him, looks through the discard pile. Yeah. Okay, you definitely don't play 4 at least. I know that for a fact. So Frank's definitely going to be aware of that, and that is a reason to him Andre attaching to the Rockruff is a reason to get, okay, well, I'm not gonna. He maybe probably has it. I'm not gonna mess around with that. I'm just gonna get this Trubbish out. I'm not gonna be attacking with Drampa soon anyway.
And interesting, Frank's deciding about discarding his own Choice Band with Field Blower, not actually discarding anything on Andre's side of the field. You already have enough items to knock out anything in his deck. And, if he gets a Float Stone on the Zoroark, that's beneficial for Andre. So he's like, all right, you can keep those.
Yeah, he's just saying, I want to get a Float Stone on this. I don't want you to have a Float Stone on your guy, so I'm just going to make this kind of, not unintuitive play. I don't think everyone would see that here, but, Frank Diaz is a master. And we're going to see a Lycanroc, it looks like.
Yes. No Bloodthirsty Eyes, I would think, just because you'd want to knock out this active Garbodor.
Yeah, as long as he can take the knockout here,
And now you're like, okay, maybe I should have discarded that choice band, because how many items are in the discard? Like, is there 10 items in the discard?
Yeah. This is the one thing we were talking about, the amount of items earlier, and the Lycanroc is the one thing that actually needs more items. He actually is going to need 10 in the discard to take a knockout on it.
Yeah, that is a beautiful rainbow rare.
I do like a strong energy. That's going to give him the knockout. Strong energy, a very powerful, providing, not only fighting energy, but a very powerful ability as well. Looks like they're counting the...
There is exactly 10 items in the discard.
Perfect.
So he's like, okay, I guess I can play this because it's going to get knocked out anyway.
Yeah, you've reached that threshold anyway. It doesn't matter anymore, the numbers. It's not like you can spread the damage around or anything. The numbers, once you can take the knockout on your biggest thing, it's not important anymore.
And one thing we don't see from Frank's deck that we kind of saw a little bit in these Garbodor decks, and really just any deck that could try to tuck it in, is the Oricorio. It's a card that's essentially built for playing against Vespiquen.
Yes.
But since with Vespiquen kind of died down in popularity, it's like, well, I don't really need this anymore. And I already have an okay matchup against the deck anyway, so let's just cut it.
Yeah, I think I also wouldn't be, if I was playing in this tournament, would not be playing any Vespiquen decks. Vespiquen is, I think, definitely on the lower half of the popular decks. Like, I know there are some players playing it. There are some players who are going to die hard play Vespiquen no matter what. But definitely not something you expect to be everywhere as it has been in the past. So no reason to play the Oricorio, although the Oricorio does give you a great matchup.
And now we see Frank's kind of in the position Andre was last game, where all your attackers keep getting knocked out and you need to search for a lot of cards to replenish your offense, essentially.
Yeah, Frank has chosen to attack with the Garbodors this turn, which give him, or this game rather, which give him the advantage of not taking, Andre only taking one prize for each knockout. But again, like you said, he has to rebuild them. Now he has to go, okay, well, I have to find evolutions now. I have to find attachments. Like, this is hard for me. And he does have 2 copies of the Trashalanche Garbodor. A lot of lists run 3, a lot of lists in the past have run 3, so it just depends on how you want to, what you want your build to be like, and he has chosen to go with more of the Garbotoxin, which is going to hurt him in situations like this where he wants to find the Trashalanche attackers.
Yeah, and there we see the end. He got 2 Drampa GX, but not really much else. He might need an Acid Spray to take out this strong energy. But the good thing about that, though, is if he gets the chance to discard the strong energy, it's gone.
Oh, yeah, it just turns off that Lycanroc entirely.
Yeah, both special charges are in the discard, and there's not really much this Lycanroc can do. Now the DCE is essentially wasted on it also.
Yeah, he can retreat with the DCE, but it's going to the discard pile. It's not coming back.
Exactly.
So we see Frank play the first GX on his side of the board, just playing that Drampa. Not what he wanted to be attacking with, but he doesn't really have many other options. He is saving that choice band.
All right, this is a big flip. Acid Spray.
And it's heads.
Wow. Frank now has some time to work with.
Yeah, Frank is now, eliminating this Lycanroc factor. There is no way that Andre is going to be getting back that strong energy. Andre does have other attackers. He has the Zoroark built up. No energy anywhere on the board, though, and this energy that's on the Lycanroc is going to have to be dedicated to retreating. So Frank is buying himself a lot of time here.
Yeah, and that was huge because he did have access to a Verse Seeker for the Guzma to take a quick 2 prizes on the Drampa if he wanted to with this Lycanroc. And now his hand's kind of anemic where, I guess I have to Sycamore, hope to hit one of my 2 double colorless left. And if I don't get that, then he has a few turns to set up. And so now it's going to be interesting to see what his plan is going forward.
And we see a Sycamore here. He just has to kind of find things to put together. It looks like we do have enough Pokemon in the discard pile to knock out a Drampa if...
all right, and there's the double colorless.
Choice band. He does find the double colorless. So there's one in his active. Is there one in the discard pile as well? Or did that one get shoveled back in?
I believe there's one in the discard pile.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, me either, but we're completely out of special charges. I know that much.
Yeah, so this is the point of the game where Frank might actually get to use his Plumerias to turn the corner. Okay, no more special charges. There's no way for you to get these back. you have 4 prizes left. If I keep attacking with 1 prize attackers, and you're forced to play double colorless every turn, I might just run you out, and then I could just sit here and wait for you to deck out, or wait until I draw my cards.
And I do think I saw the Plumeria in the discard pile of Frank, so I think it's alive for a Versus Seeker. So we saw Andre go to try to retreat the Lycanroc, but he actually just remembers he can stand in with the Zoroark and not have to deal with that.
Yeah, this is kind of awkward, though, because with Zoroark now, Mind Jack, sure, it takes the knockout on this Trubbish, but Frank wouldn't need to play anything else, and this Zoroark is doing very little damage. And with that, it's another double colorless that's kind of wasted on the Zoroark. Like, sure, you take 1 prize, but what are you going to do moving forward?
Right, we see a Parallel City come down, clearing up a little bit of Andre's bench, just getting rid of the Shaman there, getting rid of the easy knockouts for Frank there. And what can Frank put together? We see another Drampa.
Benching the Drampa is kind of a little awkward just because it does give Zoroark that ability to knock out this Trubbish. But there we see the Versus Seeker, most likely for the Sycamore, or he may go for the N. All right, we do see the N, putting Frank to 5 cards and Andre to 3. Let's see if he can actually get a Garbodor or some energy to even try to attach the Drampa GXs on the bench.
Yeah, big N here for both players.
And yeah, here we go. Frank draws double Guzma, but he does get the Garbodor. I think there's a 3rd Guzma in his hand. He has 3 Yaboys in his hand. And let's see. He does take the knockout thanks to Trashalanche.
So there is the knockout. He is Andre actually replacing his own Parallel City, saying, "Oh, okay, now I need to actually find more things." Maybe looks like
doesn't have many cards left in his deck either.
Maybe 10 cards, fewer. I didn't quite see.
2. All right, so he does have 1 double colorless left because there's 2 in the discard, 1 on the Lycanroc GX.
Yeah, 1 just stranded on that Lycanroc forever, but he does have a teammate which will find him immediate access to that double colorless.
Yeah, this is not looking very good, though, because if Frank has access to Plumeria, he could just win.
Yeah, or just a way to even
knock
just
out the
even an energy
Righteous
for Righteous
Edge.
Edge.
Wow,
anything.
yeah.
Yeah, just so many options to just be able to get rid of that energy.
All he needs is the energy then.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where drawing those 2 special charges super early really hurts Andre late game.
Yeah, it's like we said, the tension in this Vespiquen deck, in these matchups, not even just versus Drampa, but versus most things, is just trying to constantly rebuild. And when you can't do that, it's definitely painful. We see that, like we've been talking about this whole time, 1 energy left. All the special charges are gone. There is not going to be any way for Andre to interact and attack anymore as long as Frank can get rid of this one on the next turn. So both players have to be aware of that too, right? I mean, they're all on the board now, so to speak. 2 in the discard pile, 2 in play.
It has to be.
And Frank knows exactly what's going on here.
He's going to have to Sycamore away 3 Guzmas, but all you need is an energy.
Yeah, all you need is just a way to get rid of that energy. So I expect Frank to just double check exactly what's going on here and then just give himself the best possible chance.
This is the tough part, though. If Frank doesn't get the energy, he will probably lose next turn. All Andre needs is 1 Pokemon in the discard.
Oh yeah,
he's able to do enough.
Yeah, definitely.
So I like this Wonder Attack here, seeing what you have left in your deck. Okay, there's a lot of energy.
Yeah, he has a ton of energy left.
Oh no, you could just Wonder Attack for the Plumeria.
Oh yeah, is it in there? I thought it was in the discard pile.
He plays 2.
Oh, he does play 2. Okay.
Yeah, and I think that's what he's looking
at.
I
think he has a Plumeria pulled up, saying, "All right, does anything go wrong if I do this?" Like,
it's basically like you can't play 5 double colorless, right?
well, in fairness, Frank doesn't know that Andre only plays 3 special charge. Like, he actually hasn't seen all of his deck. It's a strong assumption based on seeing so much of his deck in game 1 and just knowing how many special charges decks usually play. But it's not a guarantee. But he has decided, Wonder Tag, Plumeria, I don't care about any of the other cards. I just want to remove this energy from the board.
You also have to think about, well, most people play.
And there's the handshake.
Yeah.
So Frank just realized, he realizes it does take a second to think, right? It does take a second to kind of determine if that's the play. Because if Andre just goes and top decks a special charge and plays it, Frank just gets so punished for that, right? But he does realize, you know what? I'm going to take this risk. It's an automatic win. Like, I win the game as you say. The handshake happens if I do this. And Frank Diaz was right, and he advances to 2-0 here at the World Championship.
And there's only 1 minute left in the match anyway. So even if that, it'd still take a little bit more time, like, to try and pull a win for Andre.
Yeah.
But you also have to think, like, well, I've tested a lot against this deck, right? Most of the list I see just play 2 special charge.